Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some Titanfall gameplay. The score in the background is a 26-0, and this takes place on Hardpoint. This is actually a part of the campaign multiplayer. This is the first mission, which I've got to say, it was a pretty terrible mission to choose as the opening to campaign multiplayer. I know they had to cut corners in terms of, they wanted to make the multiplayer as substantial as possible. A lot of multiplayer games that have come out recently aren't particularly substantial. When you look at Battlefield 4, it kind of stretches the modes out, and it's not till the DLC comes out that it really starts earning its merits and spreading its wings, I suppose. The same could be said of games like Call of Duty. I feel like Call of Duty, a lot of the map design, although there are a lot of them, they're not too great. A lot of them just aren't standout maps in any way, shape, or form. Whereas Titanfall has a lot of great maps, and even if you don't like some of the maps on offer, there's probably someone out there that thinks that map is incredible, or that map is great. There's a lot of maps that fit people's styles or preferences, which I really enjoy, and they at least to some degree make sense. There's no map where you're like, how did this even make it in the game? Which is really a question that props up a lot in Call of Duty Ghosts, in my opinion. So, I understand why they split the multiplayer. They didn't want to have to cut corners in their multiplayer mode, so they decided to scratch something together in quite a short space of time for campaign multiplayer. But I'd have to say, why even bother putting a campaign multiplayer in this game? If you wanted to cut corners, it's worse to put out this shoddy piece of multiplayer campaign hybrid than even, just... Like, why even give it the time of day? I just feel like they're being a little bit deceptive in the fact that, it has campaign multiplayer on offer, but it's not going to be what anyone's looking for. That it doesn't flesh out the lore in any way. It's basically like taking a small sneak peek into the Titanfall world, but you're really not getting enough of anything to figure out who the characters are, what are their motivations, and what the lore is truly like in this game. A lot of the cutscenes you barely even pay attention to, at least me anyway. I remember one character's name, and that name is Vish, and I only remember that name because it's a stupid name. Sounds like a fish, a fish. I think that's what they were going for. He's like a fish out of water or something. I don't know. Terrible jokes, terrible puns. I don't know. Stupid. But realistically, why even put it in? Why get people's hopes up? People are going to be getting this box out, the collector's edition. They're going to be thinking, can't wait to play this campaign that they've put into the game. It's going to be like a hybrid of both. No, it isn't. It's multiplayer with a couple of stupid cutscenes in the top right, which, if anything, obstruct your view and get in the way, and they just take you out of the momentum of what's actually going on in the multiplayer moment. And that's a shame. It's a real missed opportunity. But whatever, I think everyone's talked about this to some extent, and I had an actual topic that I wanted to discuss with you guys today, and that's regarding the success or the prosperity of the Xbox One, and whether I believe it has, any real longevity, and how I believe it compares to the other titles on market. It's a big debate for people whether they want to upgrade from their 360 or wait it out, or maybe even move to PC. I see a lot of people moving to PC that, back in the day, they never would have even considered it. They were mainly console gamers. For me, for my money, when it comes to the console versus PC argument in specifically, it's kind of, I don't know, I think the PC players can be sort of narrow-minded. Not everyone, obviously, but there's a very vocal minority of people who are narrow-minded in terms of how they approach console gaming, because they see it as, on paper, PC gaming is better, and to an extent it is. Obviously, the graphics, the specs, the requirements, there's a lot going on for the PC, and it's moving towards 4K gaming, and it's moving a lot faster than console gaming, and console gaming is to an extent holding back PC because they're having to scale down their games in terms of, meeting the requirements and the specs of the console, so we're seeing progress being slowed down. I understand all that. But the thing is with console gaming is it's about budget gaming, and there's a certain atmosphere that is captured there as a result. With PC, I feel like there's this tendency to have to upkeep your PC, to have to keep up with the specs, the requirements, and you have to put a fair amount of money into your PC. I feel like there has to be a lot of involvement from the user with your PC, or you're not going to see the most out of that system. Whereas with the console, you buy that product and you get what it does on the tin. It does what it says on the tin. That's what I'm looking for. That shouldn't have been as hard to say as it was. But there we go. I'm stupid, so never mind. It does what it says on the tin. console, you get it out the box, and you're probably not going to have any problems. And even if you do, nowadays the consoles are pretty good at staying in warranty. They've got a 3-year warranty on that thing. You don't really have to do much to add to the PC to enhance the PC. It's just there, and it's going to be able to play the games that it can. So, in terms of Xbox One versus PC, I just don't think it's really particularly relevant, because they're for different purposes and a different target market, a different demographic. In terms of Xbox One versus PS4, this is what it really comes down to, in my opinion, is that the Xbox One has its killer app in the form of Titanfall. And, you know, it's a great killer app. It does what it says on the tin. I've used that analogy twice now, so I should be shot and burnt at the stake. But I've got a frazzled brain today, I apologise. It does what it says on the tin. It's a pretty great multiplayer title, and it's going to give you that adrenaline pumping experience that will probably last a fair amount of time, especially if it does DLC right, which I think it will, because honestly EA aren't in a position to be screwing around right now. They've got such a terrible reputation, and Titanfall is kind of their last bastion of hope. Battlefield 4 is just... I don't know. I think DICE are in a pretty sorry spot right now, and I don't blame DICE, I blame EA. And, you know, their reputation is just not as strong. DICE were known as the company that gave you the game that Call of Duty couldn't, gave you the content, gave you the options, the polished gameplay, the polished engine, and pretty much had everything going for it. And I don't think Battlefield 4 is that game anymore, unfortunately. I didn't even think Battlefield 3 was, to an extent. I thought Battlefield Bad Company 2 was far better than both those games. That's just my opinion. PS4, on the other hand, I think it's the console that, although it doesn't have the killer app, it has a lot going for it in terms of indie games, in terms of going onto that marketplace and being able to find something that will meet your taste. It's got a lot more variety, and Xbox One doesn't have that to an extent. I feel like when I get on Xbox One, I look at the marketplace and I look around, I sift around, and I see kind of mediocre titles, if I'm honest. I see games like Zoo Tycoon. I see games like... Plants vs. Zombies, which is actually a great game. I don't want to slag that off, but that's also on 360, which is a little bit disappointing. And what the 360 really had going for it was it was so diverse. You could find something that would meet your taste. You had games like Castle Crashers, Super Meat Boy, Geometry Wars, and yes, once again, those games were on PC, but they were pretty standout titles. They were enjoyable, and the atmosphere on that gaming system was as close to couch split-screen gaming as it possibly could be. I feel like the PS3 felt a little bit shallow in that regard. But now the PS4 seems to be overtaking, and basically, in my opinion, what needs to happen is if the PS4 want to beat Xbox One, they need to get a system seller. They need to get this big standout title, and what the Xbox One need to do is they need to solidify their indie games marketplace and all the arcade games and have a lot more options and variety. That's just my opinion on the matter. I know this was a rambling commentary, but hey, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I've been Modest Major. Peace out.